Force on Force features the largest and strongest outdoor military organization in the country. These are the men and women who make it possible to enjoy the freedom to hunt and fish. It is with great pride that we bring you Force on Force podcast, coming to you from the Force on Force Talk.
We're here at the Force on Force podcast. We're here in the Force on Force Talk. We start all our shows in the Talk, the Tactical Operations Center, and our podcast starts here. Whether it's our Army bass or buck or hog, duck or redfish, we always start in the Tactical Operations Center, just like all our missions. This is going to be a really cool deal because we're actually at the Bassmaster Classic. We're here at the Airbnb. We got the team with us here. A lot of team members as part of this week that make it happen. I'm your host, Shawn Dalrymple, but I got Steve Jarrett here. You guys known him many years on ArmyBassAnglers Force on Force, and we got Matt Haizel, another guy that's been on a couple of seasons of ArmyBassAnglers Force on Force, and we thought it'd be really cool to kind of talk about the Bassmaster Classic today, and as we get set up as the expo going on, and just kind of talk about Force on Force as we get ready to preview the season. So it's going to be kind of good. How you guys doing? Hey, we're doing great today. Thank you.
Doing good.
It's pretty exciting, this new experience that we're doing with the podcast. First time to kind of get you guys on, and we kind of figured out the ability to do this kind of remotely, which is kind of cool. Me and George kind of played with this last week at the Toby, worked out some of the technical difficulties, and I think it's a really cool deal. So I think that's going to be one of the cool things we go forward is to kind of do this. We get together in a setting like this. We do this remotely all the time, and it works. But I think when we get together as a team, it's really cool. We got all the other people from the team that are sitting around listening to us, going to make fun of us. So no pressure on us.
Right. Live on the set.
Live on the set, right? So
yeah, no, this is really cool.
Really cool. So how many Force on Forces have you been on, Steve?
I am the most seasoned Force on Force participant in the history of Force on Force. I have been on season 2, season 4, season 6, season 8, and then I skipped 10 because of the COVID, I think that was. Season 11 and the new season 13 that's coming out in next month on the Sportsman channel. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Had a great partner again. I've had a lot of great partners over the years. I've been beat by a lot of great partners. So I do have the history of the longest chain of participants on Force. So I hold the record.
It's too bad they don't give out participation trophies.
Hey, Matt, you beat me to it. I mean, you should ask him about one of those losses was to me. It is kind of painful.
It's not a loss. Participation is the whole nature of the beast with this Force on Force.
Yeah, but you had to watch.
I'm out there supporting the effort and supporting as an Air Force member, and so I had a few challenges here and there in the early stages. I mean, I used to not catch any fish on Force on Force. Season 2, I went to the world's greatest bass lake, Lake Zapata, Lake Falcon in Zapata, Texas, which at the time was the #1 lake, and I didn't catch a fish. Okay, so I got pretty good seasons. Nowadays, I do catch fish. I caught my partner on season 13, got him in the ear with a Ned rig. So look forward to that event. My partner's here with me this weekend too, so Craig Underwood. So I'm looking forward to seeing that on TV because they got the GoPro mounted on the dash of my boat, got the hook set in his ear, and then I dropped my rod about 3 times and pulled on his ear some more. And then finally got my pliers out and pulled the hook out of his ear when he thought I was going to cut the barb off. But instead, I just yanked it out. And then I threw the net rig back in the water with blood on it. So, whatever.
I mean, I don't know about you, Matt, but I mean, I think I would have cut the line. So there wasn't anything like pulling on my partner. But no,
I didn't want to retie my net rig.
Steve didn't want to retie. So he's like saving time out there.
Right. He had to save the time.
So, yeah, we have a lot of fun on the Force on Force side. I mean, it's all about competition out there, but there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. We're going to probably drop a video that we haven't dropped yet on the social media, an incident that happened at the boat ramp that wasn't about us, but we helped some innocent bystanders, and it was pretty funny what happened. And we kind of got
comedian, I remember that one.
Comedian routine. Andy Woods kind of got in and interviewed the individuals that, I think it was the University of Florida ski team, I think it was. So they got the pickup truck stuck at the boat ramp, and you just got to watch.
From what I understand, he was trying to move the truck closer to the tube to inflate the tube from his cigarette lighter in the truck or power supply for the truck. And he pulled his truck up over the dock or over the bank and almost put his truck in the water doing that.
Dang.
And then we were out fishing, I think.
Yeah, you guys were out fishing. So
this is the first I'm hearing of that.
So so we got this whole video, and like, of course, Andy and his whole deal, right?
Yeah.
Andy's like, Andy. Of course, I'm watching this the whole time. Being all us military guys, we could have stopped at any point, but it was like watching a train wreck. We just couldn't stop ourselves because how far it would get, right? So we were taking bets on like how long it was going to take him to get a stop, not if it was going to take him,
just when
it was going to take place, right?
The funny thing that I saw was when I saw and talked to Andy about it afterwards, Andy asked the guy, did you ever think about maybe using the concrete ramp that's right next to your truck instead of driving up this dirt embankment, So I thought that was kind of funny on Andy's part, too.
Yeah, it was good because it's hilarious because I'm the one ended up having to tow the truck out from that. So, and they have these girls with them, and they're trying to impress these girls, and it just is going down.
It didn't work.
It did go downhill, and we got this whole thing going on, and it was just great. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Matt, you probably came the furthest the fish force on force. You're coming from way up in
Wisconsin, about an hour north of Milwaukee. Yeah, so I had to take a flight into Nashville, worked ashore there in Clarksville, and then towed a boat down from there. So yeah, it was quite the journey, but it was nice to get away from the cold weather and do some fishing and not have to drill a hole in the ice. So that was an awesome bonus of going to Florida.
Yeah, I think one of our staples for Force on Force is our military moment. So I think what we're doing really cool with this season of Force on Force, we're going to tell the military moment is, what story, particularly for everybody that because this is the first time we've really left the state of Texas to film in Force on Force over the years, right? And so we kind of talked about it. Me, Jarrett oversaw a Deep Fort production and kind of where I kind of wanted to go with a theme for this. And it was like, so we came up with this topic of what it felt like the first time you left home, right? And I know that for everybody, it's different in the military because, some people didn't really feel like they left home when they went to basic, or some people were when they went to MEP. Some people went until they got to their first duty station, or some people was when they deployed. So what's going to be really cool to share, I think, this season is some of those stories about what it felt like the first time you left home. I think that's going to be kind of cool. I know I don't want to steal too much of it, but I think one's really cool from you, Steve. You shared it from, because you're going to share on the show, but you shared it from your spouse's perspective. And I think sometimes that kind of gets overlooked sometimes.
Yeah, I think it does. The military spouse puts up with a lot, and they have to, change duty stations and all that, just like we do. And we have the opportunity to bond with our fellow service members, but the military spouses really have to rebuild every time they go there. Same with the dependent children. I was an Air Force dependent my whole life, and so I remember what it was like moving from place to place. But I married a hometown girl from Memphis, Tennessee, and took her to Misawa, Japan, first duty station, and it was like she'd never been out of Memphis much, and they're hopping on a plane going to Tokyo, Japan by herself. So that was a kind of a challenge for her, but we struggled through it, and we'd never been in that much snow, and I had to teach her how to drive a 3-speed on the tree on the left-hand side of the road and 157 inches of snow. So
yeah,
it was an interesting winter, to say the least.
No, for sure. And you're definitely hit the nail on the head with the sacrifice from the spouses. I'm going through it right now, facing a move again this summer with another PCS with the Air Force. And every single time with the kids, it's a challenge, but with your wife, recently I've been fortunate enough that my wife has a job that she works remote. So she doesn't have to continuously find a new job, start over. Because it's difficult. The first couple moves when we first joined, she did. And we, in the Air Force, we get 30 days paid vacation every year. She didn't. So she always had to start from the bottom and work her way up. So it was a lot of challenges that came with that.
Yeah. And I think those are the stories that sometimes it's really cool to share with the viewers. I think are very important. I particularly didn't get to share my story because I always let you guys share it on TV. For me, it was really kind of, I've talked about it with the guys a lot, but I think I was comfortable being away from home, but you really don't feel, I think for all of us, that's why it was a different spot for everybody. It's really that got you moment when you really like the overwhelming place that you may have been away from home for a little bit, but you don't really realize it until that moment hits you. And I always tell people this. For me, you know, I'd been to schools, I'd been, you know, to Fort Benning, Georgia. I'd already been to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and we're deployed to Afghanistan. I'm a rifle platoon leader in the 82nd Airborne Division. And the first time we got shot at, and I was comfortable going away from home, you know, all that, but the magnitude of the situation is what made it feel like the first time I was in a foreign land. Not that we got shot at, it was the fact that my platoon sergeant, so everybody listening can kind of understand the technique is when this happens, typically the platoon sergeant comes to the platoon leader's location and the 3 squad leaders do. He basically put a game plan together how you're going to attack the situation. Well, my platoon sergeant looks at me dead in the eye and says, "Hey, sir, what you want to do? This is where you get paid the big bucks." And I say that the magnitude because when I looked around, just like you and I are looking, all of us looking, everybody in that half semicircle were all older than I was.
Right.
And he's looking at me going, "Hey, sir, what you want to do?" And it's like the world got really, really small about that moment and the magnitude of that situation. And I think that's why it's different from spouses to what our experiences are. They're totally.
I mean, I levels too.
Yeah,
When you're younger, you're single, you're married, then you have kids, going to basic training, leaving home for the first time versus your first duty station versus your first deployment.
Yeah.
I remember my first deployment when we got invited out to go to a Qatarian military member's house for dinner, and he had a pet cheetah that was just on the leash, and you could walk up and pet the cheetah. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen in my life.
You're like, you hear these stories, and you probably, I think we all heard stories from our grandfathers and things like that. And the first time you kind of experience, so you don't really understand the magnitude of it is in your life at that particular time.
Yeah, I agree with that. My dad was a Viet veteran, and he flew C-130s in and out of Vietnam from Japan and from Taiwan. And I was in Japan and Taiwan as a dependent. And, you know, they'd go out. I can remember as a kid, especially in Taiwan as a teenager during the Tet Offensive, you know, the principal coming to the classroom and pulling kids out because their fathers had been shot down over Vietnam in the C-130, you know. So it was just, it's dramatic, you know, and service life is not necessarily for everybody, but it's not, you know, it's rewarding with the team building and the aspect of having members that you can, you know, relate to and hang out with and stuff. That's what I really like about the Force on Force group. And that's why I participated 7 times, you know, not to win, but just to be there with the team members.
That always gets aroused from everybody in the room.
I mean, if I won, it'd be over with. The climax would be gone, you know. So this way, I got no premature whatever. You know.
I gotta admit, you were really. Steve was really close one time.
I was one time, and then this guy behind me in another boat started cheating
because we caught 4 fish at one time,
and it was you're only allowed to have your basic load, which was at the time 4 or 5 rods. And he had 25 rods across the front of his boat because he was in his own boat. I was in a borrowed boat, you know, and so all we had was the rods that they gave us at the show. So, you know, I consider that to be, you know, in violation of the rules of engagement. It said right there, your basic load, you got basic load.
No, I thought it was.
I disagree. I think,
I think you should have been disqualified.
I thought it was.
You know, and I think today you probably would have disqualified somebody that did that.
Hey, I think it was the 4 fish we caught at one time. It went from being behind to really jumping ahead.
Well, we caught some nice fish that day though too. George.
That was a lot of fun.
George Shippey, the guy you had on last podcast, was my partner. We did a great job. We had 2 of the kids from Soldier's Child Foundation with us. And, you know, it was a good time, but
the Force on Force is always a good time because there's a lot of fun stories that come from it. And
well, this next episode, we're going to have all kinds of things. You got one guy that forgot to put the plug in his boat, had to come back to the ramp. Thing. Right.
That's fun.
You got me hooking my partner with a thing. You got Eric Metcalf sticking his hand in the tackle bag and bringing out a hook in his finger and stuff.
I
So,
tackled my partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got Andy, who did a great job as catching the trolling motor, and setting the hook, and then it's still on there, and the line is wrapped around the trolling motor and going, and then Andy's like setting the hook on his monster bass.
Yeah, that's going to be. I've seen that video. He's not going to really like the way that one looks on camera.
It's going to be a great show, and I hope everybody tunes in to watch it.
That's it. It's all about the entertainment.
Yeah,
Fun.
It is. It's cool. And we're here. We're at the Bassmaster Classic this week. I think it's always a fun time for us for this. It's a busy time for us this time of year because, we do a bunch of shows the month of March into February. It seems like it's been a whirlwind since February started because we filmed a TV show. We were in Clarksville, Indianapolis.
I haven't been home all month.
Yeah, it's been a busy couple months for sure.
Yeah, February was the same.
But you talk about the competitiveness of the Force on Force tournament, and that is almost like the military members Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah, it is.
In a weird sense, it's super small. It's not, obviously, doesn't take what you need to get into the classic to get into it. But at the end of the day, to be the best of the best amongst your peers is what we strive for.
It is.
There's a lot of trash talk.
Well, some of us strive for that. Some of us just strive to participate.
You showed up, Steve. You showed up.
Yeah.
Hey, at least you did catch fish, unlike somebody on home lake over there who's laughing at you. Peanut gallery who came back with a big goose.
I will say that's always a fear, right? You never want to be on TV and go out there and zero. That's like,
well, the thing that I think people don't realize about these programs, that we only have 4 hours.
Right.
And it's 4 hours with a cameraman who can stop you at any time and say, could you redo that or whatever? So it's not like we're out there 8 hours, 9 hours or whatever, like the pros are. We have 4 hours to figure it out. And that's difficult on a strange body of water. Like the whole time we were in Texas, it was a strange body of water every time I went to a lake down there. And then we moved to Florida. And for some reason, somebody picked Lake Santa Fe, which the whole time I lived in Texas or Florida for 25 years, I've never even heard of the lake. And they picked this lake instead of, Toho, Kissimmee, Harris Chain, Okeechobee.
There was a cold front there.
Yeah. And then we had a cold front come in too. And it was a challenge to try to figure out a lake in 4 hours. And that's why, if you watch our shows, you'll say, boy, these guys aren't any good. They don't catch any fish. Well, that's why we don't catch any fish is because we only got 4 hours, It's tough to figure out.
You put anybody, Matt, in a 4 hour situation with not a lot of practice, it can be difficult in certain conditions, unless you just land on them right away.
Absolutely.
That time to start.
Absolutely.
Just a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think really taking into account the circumstances and the situation of what's going on with the limited amount of time that we had, the cold front that came through, the tough bite, for me, I had to change tactics. It wasn't going after the big ones. It was how can I get the small ones in the boat? How can I figure out to just put up some weight to be competitive?
Right.
Because in practice, it was the exact opposite. It was before the cold front.
Yeah. That's always, when I'm looking at places to go and picking places, it's always a fear. Everything we do is the weather going to hit us right, going to hit us wrong. Sometimes, we hope that everybody's going to catch fish, but we've been on some good bodies of water and I've seen some guys come away, struggle and, from it. It's the nature.
Psych yourself out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like yourself. I talked to Cody Prater, camera guy, he's filmed MLF and Bass, and we talked about this. It's just, I talked about it was kind of cool when Major League Fishing first started doing some of their stuff to see some of the well-known guys that would just spin out in that. We never got to see that before, right?
Right.
And I think that's what's really cool that we know that happens with everybody.
Oh, definitely. And then you put a camera in front of some people's faces that they're not used to it. Like it's a whole different element.
But the main thing is we're in the booth here and we're raising money for our charity, Folds of Honor. So if you're out and about and you're at the Classic, make sure you stop by our
Yeah, because it's going to be really cool.
Support us.
Because we're doing something cool this week. Because not only that, but we're going to be raffling off an HDS 16 Pro
from one of our sponsors, Lawrence.
Yeah, for Lawrence. And we got Folds of Honor in the booth. And so come by and talk to them. You can donate money directly to them and then find out how to do scholarships. We spent all day kind of setting up. I think we were talking about this earlier. I thought it was really funny, but I think one of the part about being in the military, we were talking about setting up at the Classic. Steve and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. Being a military guy, and if you never set up for the Classic, we do a really good job, but the Classic is such a stressful time setting up, right? So when we do this,
Yeah. Fade in and out.
now
Yeah,
we got
I can't hear you, or I don't hear myself either. Now it's a real delayed echo.
hold on.
No.
Cut out again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Now we're back.
Okay. All right. So we're just talking about, so we're at the Classic. We're setting up booths. Is always a stressful time. We had this discussion. Military guys are the only people that can yell at each other in the booth, right? Or anything we do, we could yell at each other. It'd be like, go to lunch and then turn around and us have dinner together later and not like a big deal off the back. And I think to me, the part that when we come together, that I miss when we get together, like at the Classic and we see each other at these events, that when you aren't, you still get to experience it, Matt. But Steve will tell you, man, you just don't see that every day in every walk.
No, I mean, we can cuss at each other and yell at each other and then turn around and go to lunch together and enjoy it, so it's just an opportunity to express yourself and get over it. Main thing is don't hold grudges and stuff. You just get over it and move on.
I think when you're dealing with a lot of people who have had success in their military career and leading different operations.
Well, especially when you get two officers together.
Especially two officers, right? And they have two different ways of doing things. And don't necessarily see it.
Army officer and an Air Force officer, two different worlds, guys.
Toss out the boxing gloves. Let's go.
Yeah. But we got the booth all set up today. It's really cool. What's really cool too is our boat is actually for the first time, our boat is actually in the Classic Expo. So we got a request from somebody at Motor Mate. The guys over at Motor Mate were in a bind, and we came through and they were like, hey, we'll help you out. We'll give you a boat to put in your booth. So the Army Bass Angler Skeeter FXR is going to be on display. So that's really a cool deal. That's the first time for us to have that opportunity at the Classic, So Steve drove it down here.
Well, it was interesting because the boat was in Indiana, so I drove from St. Louis, where I live now, and drove over to Illinois and met KB, the owner of the boat, and we swapped boats at the restaurant or truck stop there. And then I drove back to my house, and then yesterday I drove the boat over here from St. Louis, and then this morning I backed it into the Classic. But the Motormate guys were real happy to be able to have that boat for their display to put the motor mount on and show off their product. And we're really glad to have them as a new sponsor. So,
yeah, so it's just a cool deal to be able to go do things we're doing right now with everything we're doing. I think we're just doing so much right now. We're going to have a lot of Frog Talk apparel. We got G2 Gemini in the booth here.
Yeah.
What's really cool. So, you'll tell about the KVD jerseys?
Yeah, so we got G2 coming in the booth with us selling jerseys, and Kevin Van Dam is celebrating his 33rd season. So he had signed 60 authenticated jerseys with letters of authenticity for us to sell throughout the Classic. So first come, first serve, $330 for his 33rd season, with all the profits going to his charity.
And I think, I always talk, we have ours, but it's great to be able to help one of our partners out, G2, and their partnership with Kevin Van Dam and the work with, the GOAT, to be able to help him do something with his charity. It's a big honor, and I think that's going to be cool. And we're going to have a lot of people coming by to get one of those jerseys. I think that's going to be really, really cool.
We're also the only booth selling Wally X sunglasses.
Yeah, we got Wally.
So we're the exclusive dealer of Wally X here. So get you some new sunglasses.
Yeah, that's another big thing, because we got that going with the Wally X sunglasses. The other thing too is we got the Foresight. Yeah, tour. We got a special. We're doing a 10% discount on them. And I got to confirm, but I think it's free shipping to their house. They're going to do drop shipping is what the plan is, but I'll confirm that piece. But yeah, I mean, what great. I mean, I love that turret system. You got to play with it on my old boat, Matt. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's super nice. It makes things so much more convenient when you're out on the water and being able to, be trolling one way and looking another way. It was super convenient.
Yeah,
Almost a must have.
Yeah, because if you put the forward facing sonar thing on your trolling motor, you're missing out. Especially if you're in the wind or something like that, and you gotta use your spot lock. You know,
Thought you didn't want to talk about us tonight.
Who said that?
You said
No, I said for the classic itself, but for our sponsor.
yeah.
Okay, the Rance with their Active Target 2, and then the Foresight, the Powertran, is a great little turret. I mean, it's got a remote button, foot button that's, you can turn it. And
We got one set up so you can come by and play with it. That's going to be really cool to come by and play with that. Because their guys over at Dakota Lithium gave us we asked them for a battery to run the display, but they went over and above and we got this cool power generation box that they gave.
Oh yeah, that thing's awesome.
It's like way more power.
It's going to power up our whole booth.
Right, you're going to pay, but it will power the whole booth off that day. So, but you haven't got to mess with the Foresight. You can come by. You want to see how it runs and everything. We'll let you play with it and do all that. So a lot of cool things going on for that. And so we have all our partners that we're going to see. And I'm actually going to be shooting some stuff for Force on Force tomorrow. We got our guys from Deep Fork coming over. There's some small parts we got to shoot because because of all the busy schedule we have, I haven't got the new ABA 6. And so one of the cool things we did last year was do a walkthrough with ABA 6. So we thought this year we'll just do a walkthrough with all different partners at the Classic, what we're going to put on the new ABA 6. And so that'll be taking place tomorrow. I know Steve's got a new Skeeter FXR coming up.
I bought an FXR 20 and I'm going to go over and pick it up from Foothill Marine in Morganton, North Carolina next week. So I'm looking forward to that. But I do have my old Skeeter for sale if anybody's looking for one.
And we even have a bona fide kayak. We won't have it in the booth, but we have it in a trailer, and we'll hook up somebody up with a great deal. I think I haven't been keeping up with it. Matt, do you have like a classic favorite that you think is kind of the key? I mean, it's easy to go Jason Christie because it's his home waters, but sometimes it's a kiss of death. But
yeah, I don't know. Scott Martin's having a hell of a year.
Yeah, I'm looking at Ben Milliken or one of the Japanese anglers myself. Taking it this one. Because I was talking to somebody at lunch today, and they were saying that Grand Lake is kind of a 45-degree stair-step type lake. So your forward-facing sonar guys are really going to be the ones that are going to probably dominate this particular one. So
let's talk about that.
See how we just...
So you do think sonar is going to play a factor into the Bassmaster Classic this year?
Sure. Why wouldn't it? Plays a factor in every other tournament. So the one that got me was Scott Martin using it on Okeechobee. Because that was 6 feet of water, and they say, well, you can't use it in shallow water. Well, sure. He was looking at bedding fish in like 4 feet of water.
For clumps, yeah.
Well, he was looking, they could see the fish swimming around the beds and stuff. So forward-facing sonar is here to stay. A lot of people don't like it, but they didn't like back when we put a trolling motor on the boat either, back in my early days, of course. So
it's super convenient and super helpful. It's wild though to see how something like that changes the industry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Me and Brent talked about it. Like, they had the same conversations in 2008.
Yeah.
Right. 2009 with side imaging and down imaging and forward facing it's just the next revolution.
When they went from what was that thing?
Flasher.
The flasher. Yeah. They went from the flasher to the screen, it's modern technology advancing. I'm waiting for the one that tells me what species of bass or what species of fish it is so that I don't waste my time on other species.
Well, I have seen something. We kind of talked to him a little bit that you could cut. I want to kind of, I think it would be a good thing. It's the aqua view.
Yeah.
You could use it in a manner because you
I think you're allowed to use it in practice.
Right.
I don't know if you're allowed to.
I don't think we did tournament, but in practice, be able to, because it'll just plug right in the back of the Rance HDS Pro.
Right.
And so I think it's a teaching tool when you're talking forward facing sonar, because when I've taught electronics stuff, I always say go to something you've seen or caught fish off before, a brush box, so then you know what you're looking at, right? So the hardest thing I'll get asked, well, how do I know what looks like what? Well, if you got some kind of reference to it, you can do that, and that can kind of help you. So you make a joke about it, I think it kind of does.
No, I've talked to guys that use forward facing sonar a lot, and they said they can tell by watching the reaction of the fish which species they are.
Yeah.
Basically what they're, if they're following bait fish or if they're just hanging out on the bottom or hanging out. I haven't used it on a smallmouth lake yet. Kind of curious to look at the boulders and watch them do that kind of stuff. But it's just modern technology that, that people need to learn. If you don't want to learn it, don't have to. But I don't see the reason to necessarily criticize it or to outlaw it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And everybody criticized, well, the guy's just sitting there looking at a screen all day. Well, before he was just looking out at the lake all day. So you never saw him anything but his back anyway. So, what the heck's the difference as far as that? The thing I think that the TV people ought to do, though, is make sure that he has forward-facing sonar on the console screen at the same time so that the cameraman can show you the screen or have a camera view like they do in a lot of them, have a camera view of the forward-facing sonar, so you get to learn, where the bait's dropping and all that stuff, and that way I think the viewer will understand it a little bit better and get to know it a little bit better and use it more. But like I said, the active target too that Lowrance has got has just been a super product. I'm really glad I have one of those. And you talk about the Lowrance, the pro and stuff. Shoot, you can sit there and watch a football game on it, basketball games, and you can plug in your AquaView or whatever. It's got like 6 different split screens you make. So it's pretty amazing if you get there.
Well, I mean, we heard it from Steve. Forward-facing sonar is going to be the difference in the Bassmaster Classic. Yeah. I mean, it came from him,
Well, I don't know Grand Lake myself, but I heard some people talking about it at lunch today. And believe it or not, years ago in Knoxville, I was sitting at a diner eating lunch, and I was talking to the couple next to me, and come to find out it was Hank Cherry's parents.
Yeah.
And he won that classic, I didn't realize it was Hank Cherry's parents until I said, yeah, who y'all in favor of? He said, well, we're kind of leaning towards Hank Cherry. He is our son after all, so it was kind of funny, but.
Yeah, his whole family is just wonderful individuals. I'll never forget how it was at Greenville, and his wife, I was trying to get over from the expo to the
weigh-in.
To weigh-in. James and my dad were over there, and I think there was a taxi there, and I can't remember. She made sure that I got from the weigh-in, from the expo over to the weigh-in. And so, you always remember
right
people and for things like that more than you absolutely what they win. And so he just won a classic winner. So if you're talking about the Bassmaster Classic, if you know anything about Hank Cherry, he's just a very good person in his family. Anybody's ever been around his family will say kind of the same things about your interaction with his parents to me interacted with his wife and his young son at that point. So I think it's such a great time. So, but yeah, it's just
sounds like the cops are coming to get us.
Yeah.
We're in one of those neighborhoods that are Airbnb.
I mean, the Airbnb is nice. So
oh yeah, inside is great, but don't go outside without your sidearm.
Four cops in.
Yeah, we only have 4 former policemen or current policemen in the room with us.
Well, I think we kind of wrap this up. I think it's going to be a great week. We're going to have a great time. We're going to try to do one of these at the actual expo, maybe Saturday, and post. I think it'll be kind of fun to do one there, especially as we start seeing how this kind of unfolds from the Classic. I know it's always busy, and we're doing some new great media things with all what we're doing now, and I think that's kind of cool. Everybody's kind of getting involved with that, and I think that's going to be good. So I appreciate Steve and Matt kind of spending time with us on the podcast and the pre-Classic and talking about prepping for the Force on Force to appear on the Sportsman's Channel and the Well Fishing Network, hearing about little bit over a week or so away. It's gonna be up.
Yeah, if you can't get WFN or World Fishing Network or the Sportsman Channel, then subscribe to a streaming service that does have it. There's several of them out there, but
Yeah,
the Sportsman Channel, and we've got 4 shows now. So we have a redfish show first quarter, a bass show the second quarter, and then the hog third quarter, and then the buck hunter the fourth quarter. So we'll have a show on each quarter. So make sure you subscribe to whatever streaming service you need to get the Sportsman Channel, because it's well worth watching that show. And if you need to look at the previous episodes, you can go on our Force on Force TV and the forceonforcetv.com. Is it .com or
Yeah, it's
is it
.com.
on the YouTube?
well, it takes you to the YouTube channel, which
Okay.
is Force on Force TV now. So the
Okay.
YouTube channel is so. But not just that. If you want to know how to become a member, go to forceonforcetv.com and you can find out more about it. So appreciate you guys being on with us, and we'll see you guys next time. Cool? See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Force on Force podcast. Join us next time as we dive into more topics from the Force on Force Talk. For more information or to learn how to join the organization, visit our website at forceonforcetv.com.